Empire. We're back from the NFL Combine, and I'm going to tell you what I learned. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Football Jones Podcast. I am Mike Jones. You can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. And, it was a good week, an action-packed week, a lot going on, both when it comes to the draft, free agency, the collective bargaining agreement between the players and the owners, and if they can get this labor deal done. Like I said, there's a lot to get to. And today I'm going to enlist the services of Jordan Reid, not the Redskins tight end, senior NFL draft analyst for draftnetwork.com. Really smart guy, former college football coach, has an eye for talent, really insightful because I'm still learning these college guys. I have to tell you, the NFL season is a grind, and all the traveling and everything. I don't get to watch and learn as much college football throughout the year, so I'm still learning these guys when I get to the combine. And Jordan is a guy, like I said, former college football coach, former college quarterback, and his insight, I just learn a lot from him, from his work, so we're going to talk to him. But first, a couple nuggets, things that I've learned. I know a lot of my followers are Redskins fans, and, the Redskins are in a really good position when it comes to this draft with that number 2 pick. It's almost a surety that Joe Burrow is going to Cincinnati, and so the Redskins are going to have options. With that number 2 pick, they could take Chase Young and get a generational pass rusher. But you heard Ron Rivera this past week at the podium. He was talking about wanting to meet with Tua, wanting to meet with Burrow, and not really fully committing to taking Chase Young, not fully committing to Wayne Haskins. I know Redskins people are very happy with the work that Haskins is doing, but I think more than anything, Ron Rivera is trying to plant doubt and drum up some leverage here, because if teams hear that the Redskins are considering taking a quarterback with that number 2 pick, they just might get desperate and call and offer up a boatload of picks. Say Miami really wants Tua very badly, and they're worried that the Redskins might seriously pull that trigger, or if they're worried some other team will call and try to trade with the Redskins, they can call, and they're going to give them, probably multiple first-round picks, second, third, who knows, but the Redskins have a chance to really help themselves. Even if they're just moving back from 2 to 3, we saw San Francisco help themselves a couple years ago when Chicago wanted to move up one space to make sure they got Mitch Trubisky. Obviously, awful move. They passed on Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, but still, teams, when they have a guy they really like, they're willing to give up a lot. And so the Redskins are going to have options here. What's going to be interesting, like we discussed with John Keim a couple weeks ago, is if the Redskins have another pass rusher that they have rated closely to Chase Young, then they're not as desperate to get him with that number 2 pick, and they can trade it, move down just a little bit, get multiple first-rounders, get some mid-rounders, and really help themselves. Another aspect about the Redskins is Trent Williams. Yes, there's been dialogue with the two, but I still think it might be a long shot that he's back there. He wants a long-term deal. It's a new regime there. Those guys don't really know him. They want him, but are they willing to give him a long-term deal? Don't know. Are they willing to make his contract guaranteed just this final year and help him that way? We'll see. But there's going to be more discussions there. The Redskins possibly could trade him. They want a first rounder. I think it probably would be more like a second or a third rounder, but it's going to be interesting to see. Then other aspects going on outside the draft is the CBA. The players, the 32 player reps met last week. They voted narrowly, 17-14 to 1, to approve the new CBA. But you've heard in the last couple days, the last week, high-profile guys like Aaron Rodgers, Russell Okung, Richard Sherman, J.J. Watt, not happy with this new CBA. Yes, they realize and understand that financially it really benefits them. They're getting more money. The minimum guys are getting a $100,000 raise off the bat. The rookies, instead of a 4-year contract with a 5th-year option, are going to have 5 years guaranteed right off the bat. The revenue sharing, the salary cap's all going to go up. More practice squad guys, their salaries are going up. But players really don't like this 17-game season. They feel like, oh, we're talking about player safety, and now we're going to take on an additional week plus an expanded playoff schedule. They don't really like that. Yes, the preseason will shrink, but a lot of those guys aren't playing in the preseason anyway. However, the majority ruled narrowly to approve this thing, and now within a week, the whole player body will vote. Right now, the CBA, the NFLPA's lawyers and the NFL's lawyers are crafting all the final documents, so that way then those documents can be presented to every single player. They can go over the documentation with their representatives, and then they'll know how to vote. I think this thing is going to pass. I don't think it's going to be a huge landslide. But yes, even though the big name guys are saying, no, this is a bad deal because they don't want to play 17 games, I think the rank and file, the middle to lower scale of players, they see the financial increase that really benefits them, and they don't want to strike, and they don't want to get locked out. And so I think that they're going to go ahead and pass this thing narrowly. I was told last Tuesday when they voted, Wednesday when they voted, I was told it was going to take 10 to 14 days for the paperwork to be finalized, and then there would be a vote. So probably look this time next week, they could be voting on this thing. Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. All right, so that's some news and notes there from around the league. Now, like I said, we're going to talk to Jordan Reid, former college quarterback, former college assistant coach, and now NFL draft analyst. Really smart brother. Going to talk to him now when we come back. All right, and here we are. I'm really happy to be joined by one of the really rising stars in this NFL draft analysis game here, Jordan Reid, senior NFL draft analysis for the Draft Network. Jordan, thanks for joining me here. How you doing?
Thanks for having me, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been an interesting week. This is, what do you take from so far, just the whole madness of this process? How would you make it? If somebody isn't here, how would you describe it for them?
It's fast. I will say that, and just being around all these guys, and you see them on TV, you see them playing games, but just being able to break them down a little bit from the podium sessions to seeing them test is really cool. Just because you don't get to see some of this stuff, growing up watching it from home, so it's a bit different of an experience being here.
Gotcha. So tell everybody just kind of your background. Former quarterback, you know college football, you played college football. How did you get to where you are now?
So I'll start all the way back. So when I was little, I was that guy that just used to sit in front of the TV. Back then when the draft was 2 days for 12 hours straight, just eating pizza and then just watching the entire draft. So my parents used to always tell me, like, get from in front of that TV, go outside and play or something. So that's something that I've done. That's really where my love for the NFL draft started. And then after that, I started playing football when I was 9, playing Pop Warner. I was a basketball guy growing up. My dad didn't think I was tough enough, so he secretly signed me up for football, and I cried for like a week after that because all I saw was, back then, people were getting crushed back then, so that's all I saw on TV. But that's really where my love for the game started. And then I went to a small school called North Carolina Central University, which is a small HBCU in Durham, North Carolina, about 5 minutes outside of Duke. I was starting quarterback there for 4 years, tons of records and all that stuff. I don't like talking about my resume or anything like that, but played there for 4 years. Then after that, I went right into coaching. I was a graduate assistant for 2 years, and then I coached running backs and quarterbacks for 3 years after that. And then in 2018, I wanted to get into the journalism side of things. That's something that I've always done. Even when I was playing, I kept a blog of all this sports news that happened, and I just jotted down what I thought of it. And back then, there was a website called blogger.com or something like that, something crazy. But I had hundreds of articles back then, and writing is something that I've always loved. It's nothing that I went to school for, excuse me, or anything like that. But journalism is something that I've always had a secret love for. And if football didn't work out for me, that's something that I always wanted to have as a backup plan, because my dad used to always tell me, I always have a backup plan to the backup plan, just because things don't always work out for you. And, we're unfortunately let go in 2018, and then I just had a twin daughter, so I had to get out of the game a little bit, and I needed a little bit of job security in a sense, and I just started writing. And I started just blogging, working for free, and getting my articles out there and telling people about my work and sharing everything. And then I got a fortunate opportunity with the Draft Network, and working with them full time is a pleasure.
Now that that whole journey, it's got to be pretty sweet when you think about what you are here, the way your work is being consumed and everything like that. Did you imagine, some people have a plan, they have aspirations. There's a difference between having aspirations and actually executing that plan. What gave you confidence that that was the right way?
So something my dad always taught me is that whatever you put into it, you get out of it. And that's something that I like. My work ethic is just crazy, and my colleagues call me a maniac just because I was up at like 4 just writing this morning about some guys and just jotting down some notes. So sleep is something that, I'm a former athlete, so I'm used to just the grind, and being a former college coach, I'm used to not sleeping. So, and then being around the game that I love, it's not work to me, and I just enjoy it. And then as far as getting my work out there, I'm a talkative guy, and I've met you before, and just seeing people here, like seeing Schefter on my right shoulder, hearing Rappaport on my left shoulder, and then just some of these head coaches walking around, it's just a surreal experience.
So this week here, what was your plan, your game plan for coming to the Combine, how you wanted to cover it, what you wanted to learn from it?
So the biggest thing that I wanted to learn from it is just, I'm big on background with guys, and just finding out, like, why are they here? And why do you enjoy being here? What makes you love the game? Like Javon Kinlaw, a guy that he fought homelessness. Just hearing him talk about that, and I'm big on finding out, like, what makes guys tick. And a lot of times I think people get caught up with just the football aspect of it. I know who you are with the helmet on. I can go on YouTube and watch this coach's tape and dissect you from the first game of the season to the last game of the season. But I want to know how you are off the field, like what type of human being you are. What are you doing in the community? What are some things how did you fall in love with the game? So that's why I'm really happy to be here, just asking these guys at these podium sessions, stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it's really what all these NFL guys are here for this week. Like you said, they've got all the film on these guys. They can break down film over and over. They can talk to coaches and everything like that, but it's just getting in front of these guys. Who has been a guy that's really impressed you from things you've heard about him, what you've heard him say himself at the podium? Who are some of those guys that really have stood out over these last several days?
Denzel Mims is one guy that's really impressed me. Really like his story, and with him, he went back for his senior year just because he didn't like his grade coming out from the committee. Last year they voted him as a late round guy, but he's been tearing it up out here. He was terrific on the on-field portions yesterday. Clavon Chason is probably my favorite interview so far, just because there was some misconceptions out there about him, and he took it head on. He addressed it, and he had a terrific quote yesterday, and he said, "Do you want a guy? I'm the most versatile player in this draft," and he said, "When you're hiring somebody, do you want somebody that speaks 1 language or 3 languages?" And he said, "I'm the guy that speaks 3 languages." So I thought that was a terrific quote.
That is, it's amazing when you see some of these guys, really good football players, not, amazing talkers. Then you have some guys who it just is clicking faster for them, and they really are good at expressing themselves. And it's inspiring to see just not only the way they were prepped, but just some guys are comfortable, and it makes them a little bit special there.
Yeah, and Mekhi Becton is one guy that really stands out about that. And whenever you're looking at a 6'6", 365-pound guy, you're already going to be intimidated. And he had a really good personality, and I love what Mekhi has done here, just because he's a guy that had to work his butt off just to get here as well. And a lot of reporters were a little bit intimidated by him, and that's what you want to see out of an offensive lineman. He barely cracked a smile, so I thought that was pretty funny.
Now, everybody talks about quarterbacks. A lot of attention on, obviously, Joe Burrow. There's no intrigue there. Doesn't seem like it. Cincinnati will be it. Tua, guy that's got a lot of questions that he really can't answer right now. Like you said, they've got the college film. They can figure out what kind of person he is, but he can't really show what else he can do and how healthy he is, or how healthy he's going to be, because his pro day is not cleared until March 9th, and his pro day is not until April 9th. But from what you heard from him at the podium, what stood out to you?
So the thing that I look for in quarterbacks at these podium sessions is who has a presence, who is able to control the room, and whenever a guy walks in, like, does he stand in there and does he take the questions head on? Is he looking people eye to eye? That's something that you want to see with quarterbacks, just because they're expected to go in the locker room and lead 52 other grown men.
Right.
And I think Tua did a phenomenal job with that. And whenever you encounter Tua, he's a guy that just lights up the room, his smile, his personality, and even asking some of the guys around here, like Jedrick Wills, he just spoke flowingly about him, positively about him. So I thought Tua did a great job.
Yeah, I did, and I felt like kind of the way he carried himself was the way he plays. You know, he's a guy who will take what the defense gives to him and then use it, to the best of his advantage. And, he's in this situation. He understands I can't do anything about my injury. I can't help it. This is the process, and this is why I got to roll with it here.
Right, and I think just him showing up here, I thought that was a terrific job. And, of course, he can't do the drills or anything like that, but the interview portion, he needed to hit a home run with that, and I definitely think he did that.
Have you talked to any guys in the league, scouts, or anybody who's interviewed him, what they felt like from him in the team portions?
Yeah, and, there's going to be 32 different opinions on him, and a lot of teams aren't really trying to show their hand just because that's the game. Nobody wants to know who they like or who they don't like, but I've gotten overwhelmingly good reviews about him, and the medicals, there's going to be 32 different opinions about that just because they have different doctors, but most of the news has been positive.
Gotcha. Jalen Hurts is another guy that came here with a lot of questions because, he put up great numbers in college. At the Senior Bowl, talking to scouts and everything, people were like, his accuracy, consistency. That's a big question that he had to show. What did you learn from him this week? We were both watching that throwing session.
Yeah.
And then you also saw him at the podium. What have you learned about him this week?
So the one thing that stands about Jalen is the exact person you see on TV is the exact person he is here. And the one word that describes him is poise.
Right.
He's never too high, never too low, and that's the first thing that'll tell you. And he's just taking the process as it comes. Everybody knows he's fighting the stereotype of being an athletic quarterback. We've seen the questions about him possibly playing other positions, but he's saying, no, I'm here to compete and I'm a quarterback, and I really like that about him. But as far as the throwing session, I thought he was fine. I thought he threw the ball really well. He was accurate. He threw the ball very well at all three levels of the field, and I think running a 4.49 showed that he's not only an athletic quarterback, but he's a guy that can throw the ball as well.
Yeah, and like you said, his poise. I saw him last night at dinner afterwards. I walked up, talked to him. What'd you think about it? And he was very even. You know, he wasn't all like, "Oh yeah, I knocked it out," or wasn't down on himself. He was just like, just out there, did my best. Another day.
That's just his personality, and I like that about him just because he plays the same way.
Yeah.
And whenever he gives these post-game interviews, like when they had the 25-point comeback against Baylor, he was just like, I just did that. So, some other guys, you'd be like, they would be all excited and stuff like that. And not to say he wasn't excited, but he was just like, it's just another day at the park.
Yeah. What, in that throwing session, both throwing sessions, what or who stood out to you? Did you learn anything about any of these guys that you didn't know?
CeeDee Lamb was one guy that something you expect out of these first-round guys is for them to look a little bit different than their surroundings, especially when they're these top-ranked guys. You want to see them move around a bit different than their surroundings. I thought CeeDee Lamb definitely did that. Jerry Jeudy is another guy that looked really good out there as well. So them two definitely stood out.
Gotcha. And then the quarterbacks, did you learn anything from those guys?
Herbert, I thought Herbert threw the ball around really well, which is a controlled environment. You expect him to throw the ball really well. Arm strength was phenomenal. I thought he was accurate as well. And then a bit of an adjustment was being under center for him, which is something he did do a lot at Oregon, but I thought his footwork looked clean.
All right, Jay Reid, well, I really appreciate your time. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at JReidNFL. That's at JREID NFL. I am not the Washington Redskins tight end. I promise that's a joke going around, but it's fun. You can also find my work on thedraftnetwork.com.
All right, guys, really be a great follow for you as we build between now and the draft. And, hey, appreciate you coming on with me.
No problem. Thank you, Mike. Yeah.
All right, hope you guys enjoyed and learned some things there. I love Jordan's story. And again, like I said, love his insight. Go check him out. He's on Twitter at JReid, JREID NFL. Check out his work on the Draft Network. And you really work to educate yourself between now and the draft because there's, like I said, a lot of talented guys out there, a lot to learn about them. I'm definitely going to continue to learn between now and then and see how this thing shapes up. All right, well, I hope you guys have a great day. Once again, you can read me at usatoday.com. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @ByMikeJones. Take this link, if you please, and pass it on to a friend. Post it on social media, whether it's Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Share it, and I will talk to you guys again next week.